Good morning. Committee on State Affairs will come to order. Will the clerk call the roll?
Senator Betancourt. Present. Senator Hall. Senator Hinojosa. Present. Senator Parker. Senator Perry. Here. Senator Schwarner. Present. Dean Zaffirini. Senator Paxton. Senator Hughes.
Our charge to protect the unborn. We're asked to study the threat of abortion-inducing drugs shipped unlawfully into Texas, monitor how the protections that were enacted last year are working, and recommend what more can be done. You'll recall the testimony before this committee in multiple hearings and also the discussions, the debates on the Senate floor and also in the media. The abortion-inducing drugs, the abortion pill regimen, historically required multiple in-person doctor visits, required prescription by a physician, and the drugs had to be administered in the doctor's office. Now, even when all those conditions are met, it still resulted in the death of the little unborn baby. But in those cases, there were protections for the moms. Under current law, with changes made by multiple federal administrations, there are little to no protections. And so basically we see Big Pharma and others taking advantage of women in Texas, harming moms, harming babies, and need to be held accountable. That's what House Bill 7 was about, and that's what our charge is about, to see how that implementation is going and what else we can be doing going forward. Again, we recognize that there is a little unborn baby whose life needs to be protected, and there's a mom who needs to be loved and respected and protected, and we can do both. That's always our goal, to protect both of them, to love both of them. And so that's what our next panel will be about. It's called Sara Huff. Huff, welcome. Introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Hello, my name is Sara Huff. I was born and raised in Brazil. Today, I'm proud to call Texas my home. At a time, I was a feminist and liberal activist who publicly advocated for abortion rights. And at 22 years old, I found myself pregnant and alone. My abortion provider told me she trained with Planned Parenthood in the United States. She told me the pills came from the U.S. and the American women use them all the time. Well, in Latin America, we grow up believing that if something comes from the United States, it can be trusted. America meant safe. America meant advanced. So I made up my mind. She told me I will feel something like menstrual cramps and repeatedly told me to not look in the toilet. Everything was a lie. For hours, I sat on the toilet alone in pain that felt like labor, because it was labor. Contractions one after another without stopping. I was bleeding heavily, shaking and terrified. And then something larger passed from my body. I looked down. It was not a blob of cells. It was my daughter. In the same moment I recognized her, I regretted it completely. I wanted to put her back, to continue her life. But the only option left was flush the toilet. The suffering was not over. For 10 days, I bled heavily. Then one night, I woke up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain. My insides were burning. My mouth was dry. The tip of my fingers had turned blue. There was a smell of rot coming from inside my own body. I was sweating, vomiting, and I knew I was going to die. I reached out to my feminist friends and my abortion provider, but no one responded. No one came. I was left to die until a Christian neighbor broke down my door and got me to a hospital. I had developed sepsis. I lost one of my fallopian tubes, weeks in the ICU, and blood transfusions. And for months afterward, horrible nightmares of pieces of a baby coming out of my body. I could hear babies crying in rooms that were completely empty. I became an alcoholic. I was terrified of being alone with my own pain, so I ran from one relationship to the next. I was destroyed physically and emotionally. What I was experiencing had a name, post-abortion syndrome, but my provider never warned me. Not about the physical risks, not about the psychological ones. No one told me this was possible. And to this day, feminists insist it doesn't exist. But I am standing here as proof that it does. But God gave me a second chance, and I got pregnant again. And this time, I said yes to life. My second chance now is called Hector, and he's 10 years old today. But when I found myself vulnerable again, broke, alone, and holding a newborn, it was not my feminist friends or the feminist movement that showed up. It was the pro-life community. The very people I had been taught to hate brought me diapers, food, clothing, paid my rent, and funded my college tuition. They saw in me a woman worth fighting for. They helped me find my footing in politics. And in 2019, after a lot of hard working, I was appointed by former President Bolsonaro as Brazil's national coordinator of maternity policies. I'm here today because I cannot understand how a procedure that nearly killed a woman in a third world country is still available in the wealthiest nation on earth. Texas women deserve better. Pre-born Texans deserve better. And I beg you to keep abortion pill out of the state because everything it's bigger in Texas, including the courage to protect babies and their mamas. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being here. Thank you.